we don't know who or what we're going to impact and how. It could be positive, it could be negative. But either way, we're going to make an impact. It's that ripple effect. I paint a mural, 50,000 people, depending on the street, drive by it. I have one in Oakland where the freeway runs by it.
Wow.
Millions of people a day look at that I'll never make contact with, that I'll never know, that I have no idea if it makes a difference for them.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Allsmith. Today's guest is one of my favorite artists. He's the visionary behind the Live with Love movement. He's challenging the world to lead with love, break barriers, and truly transform the way we see the world. He's a disruptor, the man, Ruben Rojas. What's up, man?
What's up, Bryce? Thank you for having me.
Dude, I'm excited to unpack some of your story today, but before we kind of really get into it, I was poking around your Instagram a little bit, and it looks like you chopped it up a little bit at the recent Lewis Howes seminar. How was that, man?
hmm It's good. It's good energy. It's good vibes. We go back way before even School of Greatness.
Oh, really? I want to hear this.
Yeah. So it's I've seen his evolution and all that. I've been able to be the artist at the events every year now. And we just go in there and are able to activate in this space of greatness and just calling people to be better than themselves. Self-doubt, kill it, think bigger. What is greatness? What is love? What are your dreams? And how do you achieve them?
I love that, man. One of my favorite Lewis Howes stories is when he recalls driving down to go visit Kobe before Kobe passed. And he's probably shared this story with you intimately, but I think he said the interview was set to take place at like 7. His team and Kobe's team were going back and forth to try to figure out a time. And so, of course, he's all excited. It's the opportunity of a lifetime. He gets up at like 4 a.m., starts getting himself ready, gathers everybody from his team, gets down to I think it was like somewhere close to Kobe's house, but he had like a studio that they were going into. And he said he arrived like 90 minutes before the interview to set up lights and make sure everything was set up, no hiccups. And he said the place was dark. It looked like there was nobody there. And so he walks in, he's walking down the hallway, and I guess the studio was somewhere in the back, and he peeks over the corner, and he looks into this office, and it's just this dark room. And Kobe's sitting in a chair just kind of thinking and pondering. And I just really love the way he articulated that story because it shows the importance of just peace and quiet
hmm
and reflection before all the distractions of the world kind of start taking place. And I don't know, that's one of my favorites, and I'm sure you've got your own iteration of that. Has he shared that story with you?
He shared that, and from that interview, Kobe Bryant defines love, and I use that as like my catalyst of what love is, because part of my mission is to redefine it, because
Mm-hmm.
we think it's romanticism and rom-coms and Valentine's Day. That's not the love that I'm talking about. So
Mm-hmm.
he's a beautiful definition. But my really cool Kobe story is when I played football at College of the Canyons. Our coaches told us, hey, Kobe's going to come. He's going to be using our facilities. He's going to be down here training. So no basketballs, no jerseys. Don't bother him. No autographs, no nothing. And we'd be out on the football field and he'd be hitting 400-meter repeats by himself. This is number 8 Kobe. This is
Mm,
OG Kobe, second year in the league, third year in the league, I think. And
wow.
then he'd be training in the weight room by himself all the way out in Santa Clarita at College of the Canyons. I'm like, what are you doing way out here? You're like supposed to be in LA. And that was just one of those stories. And then I remember having him invite us to play ball, and it was just like, there's a whole nother level. I'm not a basketball player, but like I know what another level is, and then there's another level. So that's my really cool Kobe story. I've loved him since day one, and unfortunately he left too soon. But maybe that was the right time. That was the time he was supposed to go, and I was excited to see what else was going to do. But then I painted 2 murals in his honor. This is actually one of the art pieces. There's a 4-story mural of that with his daughter by USC, kind of
Yep.
downtown.
Yeah. Man, that's so cool. It almost gives me goosebumps thinking about it. Just There's a famous line. I had a former NFL player on the podcast a few months ago, Anthony Trucks, and he said a line: "The work you do in the dark is what grants you the permission to shine in the light."
Mm,
And the fact that Kobe's was doing all that stuff so early on, probably before he crossed paths with his strength coach Tim Grover, before
yeah.
anybody really wanted to like invest time to travel out to Santa Clarita with him at that time. And the fact that he was just willing to put in the work just goes to show that there was this true love, right? Like intrinsic drive of like, man, like I'm not only going to maximize my human potential, but I'm going to inspire those around me and the next generation. It sounds like he did that naturally.
Hmm.
That's cool,
But
man.
to me, it's about walking the walk, right? I
Hmm.
could paint love all day and I can say live through love all day and choose love and more love. But like I'm doing it every single day. Even in my bad moments, I'm like, this is what's happening right now, and I lean into gratitude to get me out of the depression mode that I'm feeling or whatever. I've got kids. I've got to be the example. We have to walk it and we have to talk it. We can't just say it. Like, and that's part of it. And that's part of showing up every single day. And he showed up,
That's very
even when
well
he
said.
didn't
It's
have
that
to.
it's that concept of embodiment. And now that you're a
Hmm.
father, I've heard you speak on it before on your podcast. Your kids, they'll listen to what you say, right? It'll come in the headspace a little bit, dance around, then it'll kind of run. But man, do they watch what you do. And if you're really showing them, hey, this is what love means by how I love your mom, by how I love you, by how I show up for myself to get my fitness sessions in, to show up for my team, to over communicate, to do the little things that don't always get a pat on the back. And by you truly embodying it on the day to day, that's information that they're now absorbing like a sponge. And then
Yeah.
as a byproduct, it's going to be ingrained in their DNA and their future. And just to allude back to Kobe, that was something that he said. Somebody asked him, like, what is success? And he's like, success is how you inspire the next generation. And I think you're doing that not only as a father, but also through embodying this concept of live through love rather than just painting it and saying it. It's like, no, 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 no. Every moment I am trying my best to maximize whatever percentage I have that day. I heard you say it earlier. Sometimes you have 10% to give that day. All right, cool. We're giving 100% of that 10%. And I thought that was very well said. When you think about parenting and embodying living through love, what are some of the concepts that come to mind?
First of all, one of the things I say, and this is a closing line in one of my talks, it's not enough to tell your child to say please and thank you. They need to see you and hear you say please and thank you.
Mm.
So number one is like he is looking at everything. My 4 month old, she's looking at things, but she doesn't know yet. So she doesn't count. So we'll just refer to the 3 year old. And it's constantly not allowing myself to be surprised when something comes out and like, oh yeah, he watched me do it. He watched his mom do that. So it's there's another level of being present. There's no off switch, right? My wife and I got sick at the same time a couple weeks ago, like out sick, like in bed, like oh my god, take me out of my misery.
Oh,
And he
man.
was like, "Hey, Dad, we got to go to the park. Can we go on the scooter?" I couldn't lift my head, the migraine, like it was bad, and I can't say sorry, buddy, I'm sick because he doesn't understand yet. Maybe when he's a little older, he understands what being
Mhm.
sick is, but not in the context of that. So I had to just go to the park and play on the scooter and do the thing. So it's showing up. It's you have to do it. There's no off switch. But the one thing that I tell myself is that it's finite. Right. The other day I saw this video clip. I've never watched Modern Family, but it was Ed O'Neill, whatever his character was, doing a speech about
Yeah,
kids.
yeah.
And I lost it. I'm just bawling on the couch. My wife's like, "What is wrong with you? Like, are you okay?" And then I showed her the clip, and she's like, "Okay." And then I'm just losing it because what my kid did 6 months ago, he doesn't do now. He's already not doing things. So then I started
Hmm.
foreseeing, like, wow, one day he's going to be me on the couch, like, not around me anywhere. So knowing that as hard as things are in the moment, as much as I don't want to do things, as much as I don't want to parent, it's going to be temporary. And I just tell myself this isn't going to last forever. So if he wants me to carry him for 5 miles, hey, this is why I train. I'm going to carry him for 5 miles, no matter how hard it hurts and I'm sweating and I want to put him down. Because the day is going to come where I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to carry him. He's not going to want me to carry him. He's going to be too big for me to carry him. So like those are the things I really take. I don't take for granted. It's just we're going to have our moments, and I know I'm going to mess up. And my goal is just to mess up as little as possible by looking at myself in the mirror and just trying to be as present as possible in the moment.
For sure. It also helps to remind us that kids teach us more about time than anything else, especially early on, because they're evolving so fast. Like you said, like, okay, you're waking up in the middle of the night to change diapers. There's going to be a day where you have the last time, where you change the diaper for the last time. You know, once they approach 18 years old, there's going to be a last time that they come home to sleep at mom and dad's house, and they're off to college and then off doing life. The concept of last time, knowing that there is going to be an end, like you said, is such a great reminder of being enrolled in the process. And I think being enrolled in the process and really showing up, like you said, with compassion, with empathy, realizing in that moment when he's like, Dad, let's go play on the scooter, you could just be like, buddy, can't you see that I'm sick? But he doesn't conceptualize that. You have this unique ability to do what Logan Galbrick says from Deuce, the 5 perceptual positions, to reframe that and be like, okay, let me put myself in my son's head right now. Let me see what he sees. Let me try to think the way he thinks. Okay, now I can meet him where he's at. And despite the way I feel, I'm going to show up because I know that my feeling is temporary. It's like a car driving past. I can say hello to, what's up, fucked up sickness? I don't feel good right now. But my son's always going to remember the moments that I showed up and played with him. And one day he will conceptually understand the sacrifices that I made for him. And then as a byproduct, that's going to marinate his character and who he becomes as a man later.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, man. That's freaking cool. What was something that kind of started early on for you? You and I crossed paths roughly 2014. We were both competitive in the team side of the CrossFit space. And you were training at Brick. I was at Valley at the time, both in kind of the LA area. And so much of both of our lives have changed so much since then. At that time, what did life look like for you? And how did you ultimately end up taking the leap to create this Live Through Love movement?
So 2014 was the transition year, right?
Mm-hmm.
2013, 2012, I was really depressed. I was actually using CrossFit to escape my life. Hey, I got this
Yep.
thing that I go kill myself and drown myself in physical pain. I've been an athlete my whole life, so I love that. I'm like, how much better can I get? How much stronger can I get? Where can I excel? Where in the rest of my life I was not loving it. I was not feeling the vibe. I was in finance, and I'm like, no, dude, And what got me to that depressive point was before that I was in real estate, made a ton of money, and it was great because in my early 20s I was like, money, girls, success, America, the dream. If you're rich, you're successful. None of that was like, do you care about yourself? Do you love yourself? Are you gentle with yourself? Rise by lifting others. Let's all go up and win. It's like kick, scream, and claw your way to the top, and who cares who you stomp on? And I
Mm-hmm.
was the top producer and the top earner. And then 2008 hits, the subprime meltdown. I had houses, I had boats, I had cars, you name it, and I went bankrupt. That
Wow.
led me into finance, and I had to rebuild myself. And I was always self-employed, so I've always been entrepreneurial, and I've always been self-reliant. No one's ever given me a paycheck or a salary. I've always had to earn it. And in finance, run out the gate again, selling life insurance and investments and things like that. But all of a sudden, 5 years in, I'm like, oh shit, I'm in the same rat race. I'm being measured by what I sold, by my money, by what's generated. And I learned from the past that, like, this is not going to make me happy. I don't care how good I am at it. I don't care how many millions I'm going to make, because that's all they kept telling me. All I saw was like I was miserable and I was unhappy, and I had 60 plus years ahead of me, knock on wood, God willing. And then I'm like, I don't know what this is going to be. And I've talked to a bunch of clients, and they're miserable, and they're bringing in millions or 500,000 or whatever, but they have crappy relationships at home. Their kids hate them because all they can provide is money and unhappiness, because they're just angry assholes for coming home for doing something they hate. And I started foreseeing that. I'm like, I don't want to be that person. And I don't want to be at 50 having a midlife crisis and, like, who knows, just leaving the family behind or anything. I was single, not married, no girlfriend, no nothing. Like, I'm just foreseeing all of this. So 2013, back to Lewis House. He invited me for a cup of coffee. He's like, come check out this thing I'm doing. And it was right place, right time. I'm like, I'm going to do anything to find the answers on how to fix whatever the heck's going on in here. Emotional intelligence wasn't really a thing back then, but I went along. We did this master and transformational training, dug deep within ourselves. It was a lot of all kinds of stuff. And I went through it, and then went to the next phase, and went to the next phase. And in the last phase of that, I'm cutting it a little bit short just so we can get going. But the thing tapped me back into source, which at one point they asked me to stand up and declare what I was. And I said, I am love. So that's where kind of love comes in. And I was always an artist. So I must preface that my whole life I've been an artist. I could draw, I could paint, I could do all these things. Never went to art school, and never did any formal classes or anything. And it was never anything that was pushed, right? First generation immigrant son, go be a doctor, go be a lawyer, go to school, get good grades, get a job. And somehow we ended up saying that our community service project is going to be a mural. And my buddy got us a wall. We raised some money, and I painted my first mural. And this mural said, who will you be? And I was telling myself, I'm unworthy, I don't belong, I'm not good enough, you name it, all those things that were feeding into the depression. So we've got love and we've got fear. And that was the fear conversation. That was that fear voice. That was that negative voice in my head. And it's funny because I just heard Goggins talk, and he's like, you got to create a second voice that's going to negate that voice. I didn't even realize it that way, but I had that second voice, and that's over here, and that's love. Okay, so if I'm telling myself I'm unworthy, let me just write on the wall that I'm worthy, and I'm going to choose. No, today I'm going to be worthy because I said so, and because I'm going to allow myself to feel it, and I'm going to feel happy. I'm going to feel love, and I'm going to feel gratitude. So I started realizing, like, wait, I don't have to listen to this voice from fear. I can listen to this voice from love. Let me respond to what's happening in life versus reacting to what's happening in life. So these are the things that I'm unpacking and I'm learning. And at that time when we met, I had just either painted this first, because I finished it beginning of January. I was still in finance, and I was still in finance for 4 more years because I did not know what it looked like to live the life that I'm living right now. I still had to figure that out. Then I painted a second mural and a third mural and a fourth mural and a fifth mural. And those were all like free pro bono, a couple $100. I'm like, I just want to go put art on the world. It's another escape. CrossFit, art, escaping my finance life. Yep. And I started sabotaging that life because if I didn't sabotage it and I kept making money, why would I leave it? So up until 2018 now. 2018, I quit cold turkey, give the whole book of business away, and I'm out. But in between then, I figured out how can I make money making art. And I made a couple commissions that were GT Kombucha. We painted 4 30-foot tall kombucha bottles in their factory. Oh, that's made cool. Some money. And I'm like, oh, you get paid doing art. But like, I have this. This is what I want to do. So for every paid project, I put more of my stuff out in the world. Hey, can I paint a mural? Can I paint a mural? Because every time I put it out there, it was like me putting a investment in what I was putting out there, into my brand, into a billboard. And at that time, no one really painted what I call paint inspirations, inspirational murals. There's a TED Talk in 2017 that I gave on that, taking back our city one wall at a time.
Oh, that's and I would rad. Put up. I got to listen to that.
Yeah, check it out. And I will put up murals like gratitude and be humble and do what you love and anything can happen. You are beautiful. Just that kind of saying, because every time I put up a mural is an entry in my diary, and the streets are my diary. So I was really talking to myself. And in many cases, we're just mirrors of each other. So whatever message Bryce is giving to the world, he's really talking to himself. And then there's people that are also aligned with your message, with Ruben's message, but we get to accept our message first. And
Mm-hmm.
once we accept it, we can start walking out there and doing it. And people are like, oh. And then we keep it authentic and we keep it true because it's us talking to us and reminding ourselves. And then people
Yeah.
tap into that and continue.
Free is the way to be. Life beats us up a bit and causes some bumps and bruises, but that doesn't mean we have to stay on the sidelines. This is why we've partnered with Kinyan Labs. Get back to doing what you love with this incredible portable device designed to get you back in the game. Kinyan is on a mission to move people from pain to possible with their top-rated red light therapy and laser solution, which tackles inflammation along with muscle and joint pain quickly and effectively. What I love is that it's portable and rechargeable, making it easy to actually incorporate into my everyday life consistently. It's small and lightweight, so you can throw it in your gym bag or work bag or even an overnighter. Kinyan's lasers and LED combo make this cutting-edge device extremely versatile for use with general aches and pains, as well as chronic back pain, arthritis, post-surgery recovery, endometriosis, and more. This has been an amazing tool keeping my elbows and knees pain-free for pressing, pulling, and squatting in the gym. Great tools like the Move Plus give me the freedom and flexibility to continue living life on my terms without limitations. There are a lot of reasons why over 15,000 people are using this device and rating it 4.7 stars and above. Head on over to kinyan.io and use code ALLSMITH at checkout to begin your pain-free journey. I know you're a big Rick Rubin fan too, and I mean, even for myself, when I first started kind of this storytelling mission, I don't know that it was for me in the beginning, and it felt like I was walking on eggshells, and it was tiptoeing to try to find the voice and fear of backlash or misspeaking or saying the wrong thing. And then I did hear that talk from Rick Rubin. He basically talks about, man, like, you have to do it for you. Because if you're trying to do it for everybody else, it's basically like trying to control the uncontrollable. You don't know how people are going to think that day. You don't know how it's going to be received. You don't know if it's the tone, the vibration, the frequency. I don't know. There was a lot to it, the way he spoke. And you look at his success and how he's created such a safe space to really rocket launch the careers of so many incredible artists. I really leaned into that, and I was like, whoa. It almost seems cliche because we live with ourselves and we hear our thoughts kind of playing ping pong and tinkering all day long, that it seems like nuance, like, oh, everybody knows that already. But then when you actually have the courage to put it out there and you're willing to screw it up a few times, it often starts to get a little bit better over the course of time. And I think I've heard you talk about that, where it's like, man, like, you got to screw up like 3 or 4 murals before you get to that 4th or 5th one that's like, oh, okay, there it is. There's that inner voice or that little song that I was trying to share with the world. Around that 2018 time, how did you get the courage to just be like, fuck it? Like, was it because you had proof of concept that, you know, you were able to kind of provide a little bit, and you were like, okay, I can make a little bit of money here. I got to pay my bills, obviously. I can't be totally volatile. But what gave you that courage to just be like, you know what? Can't take it anymore. The pain of staying is way worse than the pain of figuring out this next chapter.
Yeah. So that right there, that statement, I knew the pain of dragging this on was going to be worse than any leap I could ever take. And then I basically said, Ruben, stop being a bitch. You've been self-employed your entire life. You have figured it out. In middle school, I started, all my first businesses were illegal, just facts, you know, and they were successful and I made money doing them, right? So it's like, I've always been able to do that. So like, bet on yourself, like continue to bet on yourself. Yes, it's another unknown territory, but it can't be worse than selling life insurance, right? And I'm not dogging life insurance. I still put all my money in it. My kids have it. It's a great product, and everyone should invest in their retirement and their future. Your old person will be very happy. And I say that because I've believed in everything I've ever done. I've believed in. It's just it wasn't for me, and it's okay to leave things that you still believe in because they're not for you. But that's it. I just kind of told myself that. And the other thing, some people do ask, did you have a bunch of money saved up and that was like your safety net? I'm like, no. And I didn't have a plan B of where I'm going that I can go back to that. I just wasn't going to go back to misery.
Yeah. I almost feel
That
like
was
you
it.
wouldn't have taken the leap if you had a bunch of money saved up, because you wouldn't have had that little whisper of what I describe as NFC, no fucking choice. Like,
Mm-hmm.
as an artist, it's really easy to like have your one hit wonder in the beginning and like, the accolades, the pats on the back. It's not easy to get that, but like it's more common than you would think. But to make the second one, the third one, the fourth one, like at that point you're a pro. You're showing up because that's who you are and that's what you do. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like, oh, I listened to this song and played with my kids and all of a sudden I got this new unique motivation, and that could be a part of it. But now it's like you have that blank canvas and you've got to go figure it out. And I mean, we've seen writer's block time and time again for people that have watched Californication. Like, do you ever find yourself battling with an artistic or a creative block where it's challenging for you to kind of get over the hump and go marinate the blank canvas?
All the time. And in most cases, it's because I'm overthinking. I'm
Mm-hmm.
overthinking and like, because it's like, I gotta evolve. What is next? What am I moving? And I'm trying to make it, and to go back to Rick Rubin, keeping things within constraints and so simple. Like my constraint is love, and it's not just writing it, but like this piece, these are hands, holding hands, and the love's in it, right? A flag with love, Kobe with love. You can put love on everything, and I just started realizing, like, let me continue using that, but I can apply it to more and more and more things. It didn't have to be this one moment. But in most cases, it's either because I'm just thinking, what's next?
Mm-hmm.
What's that grand thing? Why aren't I putting it out there? And I'm just trying to overcomplicate it. Like, look, the simple message works. Keep it simple, keep it straightforward, keep it meaningful. I painted this mural, Control Alt Delete. Actually, it's on this T-shirt right now. I don't know if you can see that, but
I've seen
I'll
I've
send
seen
you a
it on
photo.
some of the I've seen it from some of the ads that you guys have done. I actually really like that.
And it's control your thinking. No, control yourself, alter your thinking, delete negativity. A pun on the Control Alt Delete. But I painted that
Mm-hmm.
on a mural, and it's just a black wall with white text. And like people would ask, why isn't there love in it? I'm like, I actually don't put love in everything. It's still in the
Yeah.
ethos of what Live Through
Yes.
Love is and putting it out there. The Be Humble mural, it's funny, I was painting it when Kendrick Lamar's Be Humble dropped. So it just went hand in hand. It was just like the universe speaking. I don't know. It's a
That's
blue
cool.
wall and it says Be Humble. And in 2017, there's a mural on La Brea and Melrose ish, giant black wall, and it just says breathe in white letters, which
Mm-hmm.
obviously came into play in 2020 and what was happening then. But
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of simplicity in some of the stuff. Gratitude. That one just has gratitude and flowers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in there, it's not in there, it's the message.
I say it on almost every podcast, but simplicity really is the ultimate sophistication. And I love the concept of gratitude. I actually have the word tattooed on my back, and not even just a message to myself, but just hopefully a message if I'm running past somebody and I'm shirtless that day. Like, it is something that we often think, man, like, I'm not there. I'm not good enough. I don't have the thing. But sometimes when we pause and realize that what we have is enough, that we are enough, it can just be a subtle reminder. And I did a marathon or a half marathon, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, just with a friend, and didn't train for it, didn't set any world records. A friend of mine, his wife had just overcome breast cancer, and they were getting ready to move. So I was like, yeah, I'll go on the adventure with you. Was not easy by any means, kicked my ass. but shirt was drenched by, I don't know, mile 8 or 9. So I popped the top and I'm running, and it's like, dude, there was this hard part that was straight uphill. And somebody read the tattoo on the back of my back, and she was like, man, like that's helping me get up this hill right now.
Mm.
And if you can inspire one person, man, like that, how cool is that? Like you don't know the exactness of what's traveling through her headspace, but like just the intrinsic love that gets exchanged there through energy of like, whoa, you're giving me a message, I'm receiving that message, and then I'm going to come and I'm going to let you know this. Now we have this really cool relationship while we're doing something hard. And now I get to tell a story that hopefully motivates and inspires other people, because love is that. You feel something, you see something, share it, because of what we alluded to before. You never know when it's going to be the last time. Let people know that you love them. And I think you're doing that by painting these murals and putting that ethos out there, and really granting people the permission to say that word and use it in various contexts. Like, hey, I love you. It's not the same way you love your wife, or you love your kids, or you love your brother, or you love your art. But like, there can be love in so many different forms. And I love that you're granting people access to that level of psychology to use that word and show how it's multifaceted.
Yeah, love is a verb. At the end of the day, let's use it as a verb. And what you were saying earlier, it's like we don't know who or what we're going to impact and how. It could be positive, it could be negative. But either way, we're going to make an impact. It's that ripple effect. I paint a mural, 50,000 people, depending on the street, drive by it. I have one in Oakland where the freeway runs by it.
Wow.
Millions of people a day look at that I'll never make contact with, that I'll never know, that I have no idea if it makes a difference for them. But I know when they see it and it says it's the earth, and it says with a post-it note, love me before I'm gone. And that's it. So like someone's going to read that. A few people tag me here and there, but they'll take that with them and hopefully use it for what it's meant to be used. Whether it's they recycle that day, or they realize that they're not going to be here one day, or whatever the case is. Like however they interpret it, I don't really care, because I'm not trying to control that, but I'm hoping that they're inspired to move in a loving direction.
Yeah. I like that you surrender that level of control, that it doesn't have to mean exactly what it means to you. You put that out there, and that leads to one of my next questions. How does art create an emotional impact? That has to be something that you've kind of tinkered with mentally when you're creating something. What are your thoughts on that?
So art is so subjective, right? And humans are meaning making machines. Anything can be a meaning. Crudely, in a male's simple thought process, sometimes this girl's touching your shoulder, and all of a sudden you're like, she wants me. And it doesn't mean that, right? It might mean that, but that's not what it means. But some people will think that that's what it means. So that's just a simple, crude example. But I use colors for a reason. Like, we're attracted to colors. Colors are in nature. Our world is so concrete now, beige and gray and glass. And I'm not saying that it's not beautiful in many ways. In many places, it's almost prison-like, though, if you think about it. So the colors are like flowers, and they give us attention, or the birds or the trees. So I'm trying to get something in you and get something going. And then that might tap into something as a kid and a memory. So with the colors, I'm getting your attention. I use words, and I'm a big fan of words, because I'm being as direct as I can be, because art, again, is so subjective. And whether it's love or gratitude or worthy or whatever, you belong here. I'm telling people, like, this is what I'm trying to tell you. And this is what telling myself, actually, which then, can go there as a mirror. And that, to me, it also reminds us, because it is emotional, because now we tap into, like, what's the thought process here? I have a story of a mural I painted on Rose. It says, I am love, but it's a giant I am and a heart. And the heart was filled with my loves, like behind me. And this woman stood in front of it. And I think this was 2017. She took a photo of herself. And to give you a little story on why this is so powerful, lots of people will post in front of the murals, awesome mural, I love it. Hey, I'm in LA, and it's kind of like a post that you do. This woman took that moment, used the post, and said, I am love, and I am worthy of love, and I am not defined by being raped. And she just opened up about her whole rape and what happened and took the power into the motion. And I'm like, yes, this is exactly what this is. Like, you are love, and all these things that happen to us, you can control how you look at it, how you interpret it, how you respond to it. And like, I got choked up, and I'm like, this is one of those moments. And I've had a few moments like that where people take the work and like these are traumatic things that happen to human beings, and they now take what that says and say, look, I am this, and I am worthy of it. So the emotional impact is there, and I know words mean a lot. There's body language. Well, I can't really paint a lot of body language on the wall, but I can use the words, and I can make that part of the story. And I'm trying to elicit the emotional response that way.
Man, that's so cool that you got to have that experience. I'm sure that also unlocked just an inner drive that you're truly making an impact in people's lives, which I also think from an entrepreneurial perspective, people taking pictures and tagging you and, saying thank you or opening up about their stories. Sometimes you can't tell. You might go months and not hear things in the beginning. Right now, you've gotten big enough where everybody's knocking on your door and posting and tagging and doing the things, which now it's like part of the process. But in the beginning, it's lonely. You had to go through that lonely chapter of like, man, does anybody even give a shit about what I'm doing? How do I figure this out? I'm trading, I'm exchanging, I'm trying to figure out how to do this in between my job. I'm trying to take care of myself with health, fitness, and community. I probably took it too far for a while where I was numbing. And as I said before, did you have fitness or did fitness have you? And then you evolved where like your interests started to change. And now you're trying to figure out ladders and paintbrushes and different colored paints. And you're just hoping that somebody's just going to take a bet on you so you can go do what you love. What was the lonely chapter like for you? And what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs that are kind of going through that?
So it's a great question, and I'm going to start it off with saying it's still lonely.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe, and just I've talked to a few people, like when you're trying to do something bigger than yourself, it's a lonely mission. When you hold an event and have community there, when you're at a summit of greatness like I was at just recently, and you're surrounded by all these people, those are moments in time that are like huge reminders. But when you're digging in the trenches all the time, it is lonely. I'm in the studio a lot by myself. And I just got to stay true to my mission of what I'm doing. And I think clarity and mission and a vision is what helps us to continue moving forward. Because trust me, there's days I don't want to show up. There's days most of us don't want to show up, and it's okay. But if you don't have a mission or a vision to help pull you through those moments, then a lot of time's going to go up surrendering to not wanting to show up, or looking toward having fitness be an escape, or going out, or whatever it is, whatever your vices are. A vice is not really, I don't think any vices are bad unless you use it to escape, literally try to run away from your life.
Mm-hmm.
So, clarity and mission, this message of live through love, I say it all the time. It's like when Nike calls, they're going to say, just do it like Ruben and live through love. Like I have those moments that I keep saying through my head to not only manifest what I want to come in the door, but to also keep me going. Like, just do it. Powerful tagline. Live through love. The NFL, choose love. Right now we got the more love. Like, how many more ways can I inspire people that we will never run out of love? We don't have to hold on to it tight. And even in our loneliest, darkest moments, like, ask for help. Hey, I need a little love. And
No,
I
it's
use
very well said.
gratitude. I use gratitude to lean into that as well. Like, well, I am thankful that I get to feel like this right now.
Hmm.
So I use thankful and gratitudeness to pull me back out. Gratitudeness, is that even a word?
Maybe
Action.
that's gonna have to be one of the next murals, man.
There we go. Gratitudeness. As artists, we get to coin things, right? Coin new words or whatever the case is. But
Totally.
I think it's just realizing that we are so connected. We can talk to Africa. We can talk to Argentina, Colombia, whoever, like face to face. Like you're in San Diego, I'm in Santa Monica, and it's like we're in each other's space.
Hmm.
But at the same time, we're so disconnected. And I think it's because we're disconnected from ourselves and we don't realize. And I say this a lot, it's like before the mirror, every day choose love. How many moments are you in front of the mirror? I brush my teeth, shave, wash my face, do my hair, check if I have a booger or something. Like we're in the mirror a lot. And how often do we say, I love you?
Hmm.
No, most of the cases like, oh, dude, my eyes are puffy. Shit, I didn't get sleep. Oh man, wow. I'm like, like we're beating ourselves up. Even that, like, part of this is choosing self love. It's like all of this surrounds itself. So I think the loneliness is part of the journey, and we need to find our tribe, and we need to make sure we're connected. And it doesn't mean you need to be surrounded by a mob of people. It could be just five amazing people.
Hmm.
And I think men are even worse off than anybody else in this space because we're not wired that way. And I'll give an example. This is something that I learned. If you look at women when they get together, they kind of get together in a circle, share all their things, throw it in everything like, hey, here's my bad thing. Here's my bad thing. Oh, here's my good thing. They're in a circle. They're just passing the ball back and forth. Men, we're in a straight line. Look at stadium seating. Look at a bar. You go out for a couple of drinks with your boys. You're here, they're here. You're kind of talking this way, maybe looking at. Do we really start getting deep and say, hey, bro, I'm lonely right now? No, we escape that and say, hey, you need another beer? Oh, did you see that dude show? 48 for 48. Dude, that was the best pickup for the Dodgers. Like, we don't actually say, hey, dude, I'm really lonely right now and I could use a hug. Like, I'm
Hmm.
hurting. I think that's also part of this and part of being important and realizing it. I mean, we opened a can of worms with the loneliness thing, but entrepreneur life is one thing, but adding it all in there.
No, 100%. And I think there's a few reasons why. I was hoping we would get to this element of the conversation because it's one of the things that really made me admire you was your willingness to get vulnerable. And I think vulnerability breeds vulnerability. And I think in my case it's constant service of others. It's trying your best to show up in the world, and it's this balance which I know you go through too between being a trained extrovert but naturally an introvert, where it's like I love being around people and sharing in that energy and playing ping pong back and forth, but then I also love my quiet time and my audiobooks and my music and walks with my dog and the sauna and the ice bath and just honestly shooting a basketball just by myself. Like some of those moments are really recharging. But I think going back to the concept of loneliness, I think it's tough because it takes a level of maturity. People have to have gone through it to actually empathize and be able to be relatable on that frequency. Otherwise, it's a judgment or it's like, oh, I'm going to weaponize that against him later. And I think men shouldn't be that way. I think there should be a holding of space rather than always trying to fix. And I think that popularizing the conversation like we're doing right now hopefully unlocks that level of space for people to then share to the level that they're comfortable. And something that I've really realized, Ruben, is that it happens when you're doing hard things. Yeah, that's part of the reason why you actually probably enjoyed elements of CrossFit because after you work out, there's vulnerable conversation. I notice it a lot in the sauna when I've got buddies over that are business owners or special forces guys or high performing athletes. In that sauna, when it gets to 200 degrees, you've been in there for 15 minutes or so, and everybody's kind of like, man, how are we going to make it through these next 5 to 10 minutes? The real stuff starts to come up. And I don't know. I really like that we're having that conversation, and it's cool that you get to express it through art, and I get to express it a little bit through coaching and podcasting. But I do think that it should be talked about more. We shouldn't just be taking these feelings and pushing them down, pushing them down in the pursuit of masculinity. And it's like, I don't know, you said once upon a time that love is the ultimate act of courage. Well, maybe vulnerability is too, especially for high performing men that, are big guys that are really strong or have tattoos or whatever preconceived notions align with a perception of rah, rah. It's like you still are a human being first. And that's where we started our conversation today offline, is like, whatever your title is, whatever you look like, you're still a human. You still have a heart that beats, a mind that operates, and a hug could probably do a lot of good. That's my rant for the day.
Perfect. But it's true, and it's like, for the example of vulnerability, right? We're muscular, athletic men. Sometimes people are like, "Oh, you're the guy that paints love? Like, you're a beast," or like whatever. Like, it doesn't. Like, yeah. What do you think I look like? Why can't I look like this? I'm like, yeah, I'm the guy. But just imagine going on stage. Few times I've been on stage giving a keynote and I get choked up. Those are the moments that actually hit the hardest. Don't do it on purpose. It's like the last one. My baby girl was just born. Literally 5 days later, I flew to Toronto to give a talk. And I'm like, yep, I was just here, but I'm here. And I get choked up looking about it. So I think it's harder to like really, it's a little bit of surrender. But if you want to hold those emotions, like, if you ever tried, I get it here. People get it in different places. But if you hold back trying to cry or letting emotion out, like my throat locks, it's like some crazy pain. I don't know. I mean, put me through 400-meter sprints. It still like doesn't even compare. A Fran, right? It's like this crazy pain that some people I think get it in their stomachs or chest or head. But if you just have the courage to let it out, the thought of letting it out seems like that crazy pain of you actually physically holding it in. But if you let it out, it just comes out. But your thought to surrender in courage of vulnerability to let it out is actually the strongest thing you can do, especially if we look like this. Mm-hmm. Because you wouldn't think like, oh, Bryce doesn't look like he just goes around crying all day. He's a stud, right? So it's just a good example, and that's why I say it is courageous. And I'm still working on it every day. It's like I don't, anyway, it's a work in progress.
Totally. I mean, you're never to the destination. It's really allowing yourself to be in it, to process it, and when those emotions come and go, like, be with them for a second. And I have to share a cool story for you. So I've been working with this healer, and we're deconstructing some of my story ideations and just kind of helping me like have a coach, basically. I'm talking through things about basketball, about losing my father, about my CrossFit experience, shifting of jobs, relationships, losing my mom, starting a new business relationships that I've had, brands, all the things. And he goes, you're so masculine. You're like a bunch of right angles. He's like, life is kind of about flow. He's like, your homework assignment this week, you're going to go get a few bouquets of flowers. Try not to pick too many from the neighbors, because I know you're a rule breaker, and you're probably going to do that. And I was like, yeah, probably. And he was like, don't just take them and hammer them in a vase and put some sugar and some water and then call it a day. He's like, cut the stems, arrange them, like actually spend time like creating the relationship between the colors and the emotions, and like observe it. And I looked at him and I was like, I hate that. They're just going to die. It sounds like it's a waste of money. And he was like, that's why you're going to fucking do it. Because I was that guy that just was like, self-reliance is everything. Just work through the pain. I don't need to feel anything. Just numb it. Like, let's just keep pushing through. It's always worked in the past. It's just going to keep working. And it did until it didn't work anymore. And then I realized that the body keeps the score. And my way is the way I went from A to B wasn't working to go from B to C. And it took that level of pain and discomfort and screwing it up and really trying to keep fitting that square peg in the round hole to get to that conversation about 2 or 3 months ago. And I was like, dang, what I'm doing isn't working. That's almost the epitome of insanity. Keep doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result. I'm going to do this exercise. And so, like, dude, I worked so hard. I made this beautiful bouquet. I trimmed all the stems. Every like 2 or 3 days, I'm changing the water. I repositioned it so it was getting natural sunlight. I actually gave a shit about it. And it added value to my life because what it did for me was it taught me to notice, right? When you're walking past somebody, oh, I noticed that person might need a little smile today. Or, I come into the gym, like maybe I should say what up to more people rather than just being so focused on my training or whatever stresses are in my mind. Oh, let's
Hmm.
notice the birds. Let's notice the sun. Let's notice, our feet touching a different texture, the texture of food. And I think that element of notice is very much in alignment with love because we're all in such a hurry in this rat race to like get the validation, make the money, do the thing, but we're living so fast that we don't stop to notice. And then before
Hmm.
you know it, months go by and you're like, whoa, we blinked and all of a sudden, September, we're halfway through. What are your thoughts on some of that now that you've slowed down a little bit and your version of the flower exercise is now not just your art and being a business owner and leading a team, but also being a husband and a father?
Yeah, we're always rushing to the destination, to the end point, and think about how many times we've been there, and we're like, I'm here. What happened? Nothing happened. But it's the journey across the destination and getting through there. So one thing is becoming a father that really enlightened me, right? I just heard Joe Dispenza talk, and he said becoming a parent is a path to enlightenment. And I'm just like, because they're mirrors, right? Like talk about the ultimate check. But we take so much for granted. Look how blessed we are living in America, living in this country, being born who we are, where we are at this time in earth. Imagine being born in the 15th century, 17th century, 18th, like just think about how different our lives would be. But my son being born, I started realizing that being bored is our fault, right? Not having enough stimulation is our fault. Thinking that there's not enough to do in the world is all our fault. Like, let's take ownership of what we're feeling and what we're experiencing. So when he was a little guy, there was trash on the floor. Like, think of a protein bar wrapper that has a little foil on the inside and it's shiny and it has lights and it is trash. You look at it, you wouldn't walk by and throw it out. Maybe in your house you would, but not in a gym. I'm not saying you specifically, but as a person. Like it's
Mhm.
just trash. And he's looking at it with so much shock and awe and curiosity. And I started looking at things that way like, let me be a child again. Let me be a baby again. Let me experience this as if I didn't know what it was. Let me not think of it as trash and think of it about what is he thinking it is. And it's
Mm.
shiny and reflective and entertaining and it makes noise. And now it's a thing that we can enjoy as a toy. So he's unlocked this curiosity in me and like, let's look at some of the mundane that we're doing and find the joy in that and find the joy in those moments. There's so much of my day that I don't want to do, but it does lead me to a destination that I want to be at. And just realizing some things we got to slodge through, but like, where can we find the joy? If I do this thing, it's going to get me to this, right? And I think that's what it's gotten me to slow down a little bit because we are rushing. I'm trying to get everywhere as fast as possible because I'm always running out of time. And now having the business and having like this much time per day to work, and I got to maximize this because I don't take work home and I don't work on the weekends. I want to maximize being with my family. Like once we got pregnant, I started making that a rule because I used to always work on weekends and I take my work home. And home is now home time. I'll do some texts and some emails, but noticing that we can do more and less by slowing down and by looking at what's actually happening around us. Let's just be curious.
For
Be
sure.
a student.
There's so much that I want to unpack there as you were speaking. The first one is just that so much of life is actually lived in the mundane. And I think oftentimes we're in pursuit of the moment. Oh, if I just get through the mundane, I'll make it to the thing. And that's okay in some ways, right? Like it can be an and rather than an or. But real love is, hey, we ran out of toilet paper. I'm going to go get toilet paper from the store today. Hey, I noticed you're a little bit extra tired today. Like, let me bring coffee to you in bed. Hey, like, I know normally, you do the dishes, but I'm going to do the dishes tonight. Hey, I noticed there's, dog hair everywhere. I'm going to vacuum because I want it to be cleaner in our home. It's the little things like that seemingly don't matter, but those microcosms of our world eventually add up to the big thing, showing that we love, showing that we care. And I think what you mentioned with really noticing that piece of trash and thinking, okay, how was this made? What's the texture of this? What was inside of this at some point? What's written on here? Why is it this color scheme versus this color scheme? I've said it often. I think we learn so much from children and from dogs because they master the mundane. They do such a good job appreciating where their feet are rather than always in pursuit of what's next. And they're still excited. My dog gets pumped when he thinks he's going to play fetch or going to the dog park.
Mm-hmm.
But dude, he wakes up every morning and he wants cuddles with daddy. He wants to wrestle a little bit. He wants kisses and pets. And then I let him
Mm-hmm.
outside. And it's like he goes to the same yard every day.
Mm-hmm.
But that yard, he's so excited to feel it underneath and get the new smells and wonder what other animals traveled
Yeah.
through his place. That level of ideology and noticing, that's love, man. And if you can really slow down and love like that continuously,
Mm-hmm.
that is a beautiful life.
Yeah. And to add to that, several conversations on my podcast, I ask, what's your definition of love? How do you define living a life through love? And in many cases, we came to the realization that it's peace. We all just want to be at peace because we're constantly at war with ourselves, war with our spouses and kids and dogs and families and work and life and the highways and traffic. Like, if we start looking at it as not being in competition, competition is good, but like that bad competition,
Mm-hmm.
because I've experienced that early on. Um, and we're not at war. We're all trying to get somewhere. We're all trying to be somewhere. But ultimately, like, we're all really looking for peace. So I think the working title of my book is Live Through Love, A Path to Peace.
Mm.
Um, and it's not that I'm talking about peace. It's just like all this ends up leading to a path of peace. But and that wasn't a plug for the book. we're not even there
No,
yet.
totally. Yeah, totally.
But
I mean,
it is if we think about it.
The Trident family taught me something really important this last year, that we are all a bundle of stories, both good, bad, and everything in between. All of their cold brews remind their customers that they are part of something bigger than themselves. I start my day with the Sweet Cream Cold Brew as I am prepping my mind and body for fitness, service, coaching, and podcasting. With various locations in San Diego, they offer over 14 nitro cold brews and a variety of specialty drinks. You can find the perfect brew and pair it with one of their treats from the Keto Bakery. You can check them out over at tridentcoffee.com and use code ALLSMITH to take your coffee experience to the next level.
it's manifesting. It's also just it's putting thoughts into the ethos and realizing, okay, how does that land? What does it sound like? And the thing that I love about the concept of peace, I think most people are craving to be seen, heard, and understood.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those three words fall underneath the umbrella of love. and granting people the ability to feel those things by just being and not having to do something, that is peace. That is a really special notice, a really special relationship. And if you do that consistently over the course of time, like you talked about with the ripple effect, that's dropping that little pebble and just watching that thing diffuse into the grand scheme of the world. And that's definitely in alignment. I think peace might have to be one of your next murals with gratitudeness.
Gratitudeness and peaceness.
So good, man. Looking back at the start of your journey, what was the greatest hiccup that you had early on? You know, you were overcoming this pain of finance, but you're trying to figure out how to make money doing art, right? Like that's one of those things that is a little bit of a paradox. You have the top of the top, the best artists in the world that are selling their stuffs for so much money. And then you have the guys that are just kind of hanging on by a thread that, you know, you walk past them at Venice Beach and they hope that they get a few bucks that day. Maybe there's the messy middle that I'm not too aware of, but what was the concept of business development like for you early on?
I honestly think that if we go back to like my early entrepreneurship days, money in, money out. Then when I was going to college, I became a personal trainer, and then I was the director of fitness at LA Fitness, and just learning sales, money in, money out, hitting sales numbers and KPIs, and that led me to real estate, finance, just not the specifics of all those businesses, but realizing that effort generates results. And I didn't unpack, like I don't have P&Ls and crazy spread. Like I let my accountant handle some of that stuff. I just look at effort and results. And if I'm in charge of my effort and my results are waning, is my effort waning? Where am I lacking? And if my results are higher, like what effort am I putting in and what's working? And then start looking at where is the effort being directed? Because in many cases, we are busy and we can be busy doing all kinds of things that don't matter. And trust me, I know it happens all the time. And as a creative, I go down all these rabbit holes of dreaming and creating stuff that is so far out that is not generating anything right now. So I want to keep it simple. I think in many cases, people will be like, what's the name of my company? What's the website? What's the logo? What's the everything? None of that matters. Make something and go sell it. Create, put in the effort to sell it, collect your results. Rinse and repeat. Keep proving the concept of you being able to do this, then build upon it. Live Through Love wasn't how this started. Love wasn't how this started. You know, it wasn't my name, Ruben. I mean, that's my name, so obviously I had that, but none of that existed until a few years into this thing, right? I painted the first mural in 2014. I went full time in 2018, you know, launched the clothing in 2020 and continued building and evolving and putting it into place, putting in the trademarks and the copyrights. But in 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, those weren't parts of this. The elements were all there, and I was creating and I was putting it out there and I was asking for something in return, and I kept doing it. And I think if we just focus on that, on your entrepreneurial journey, on your business journey, everything starts falling into place. And the other thing is going to be because there's analysis paralysis. Look, at some point, I need to bring in that spreadsheet operator to really do that kind of stuff because we can get lost in it. But you could sit here and plan for days, make business plans this thick and never launch. So it's like you're on two ends. So I think as you evolve and grow into everything, just let it happen. Now, obviously, when you're in it, no, you need a good accounting team and you need a good like put the people into play to do these things and realize where you are weak at. What are your weaknesses? Fill in those gaps, right? I can market and I can brand and I can think of things, but I'm not the guy that wants to do the emails and do the ads and do the this and do the that. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help us grow the business and put it out there, but you've got to do it at some point. to be able to then lead people in those spaces. Did that
No,
help answer that?
that's really no. It's a great answer to the question, man. I know the Deepak Chopra crew has the line "Love in action," and I think learning to be a business person and learning to be an entrepreneur, you learn through action. You have to go do the thing because in the beginning you don't know what you don't know. You can watch all the YouTube videos, you can Google and search everything, but you really have to go do the task. There has to be the practical component, and it can't just be the student in the classroom. At some point, you got to go apply. And I think that's really great advice for people that are trying to get off the couch and do the next thing. And the other thing that's a really important concept is you're never really ready, right? If you are consistently putting in effort and you're trying to figure out the next move, or maybe you've had a side hustle for a little bit, you're trying to do the thing, you have to just do it. And nothing is more motivating than fear to make rent, fear to pay your team. And, I know we're mostly talking about love today, but there is the element of fear. It exists. I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't. And it can be a tool at times, as long as it doesn't own you and rule you. What are your thoughts on just the concept of being ready versus not being ready? Like, you just got to go for it.
So I have a few things and a few like sayings, and I have a mural actually outside my studio that says "Life is now." But I
Mm.
always say it's never the right time until you make it the right time. Is it ever the right time for me to become a dad? I know now was more the right time than 10 years ago, because 10 years ago I wasn't as ready as I am now. But am I ready now? No, but we had a conversation and we're like, let's do this. And we committed to doing it. So it's never right. You're always going to add mental blocks. I need this, I need 6 months reserves, and I need X, Y, and Z, and A, B, and C, and all that before. And then, oh, you got it, all that. And then you're like, oh, but then I need AA and BB, and no. So you just got to do it. Is there a wrong time? I don't know if there's really a wrong time.
I mean, you have to be financially responsible. You got to make sure that you're covering your bases. You're not just being so volatile, because for most people,
No,
their
yeah.
first few shots at business definitely fail. I know my
Here's
first
the wrong
attempt
time.
definitely failed.
Here's the wrong time, because I get these questions asked all the time. You are a whatever sales guy, and you have a side hustle, and you love your side hustle. You're like, this is what I do 48 hours all weekend long and up till 4 a.m. every single night. This is my side hustle, and I'm going to go quit and do it now. Well, that's also the wrong time. And it's the wrong time because you haven't proven concept. Have you sold the side hustle? Has anyone shown interest? Have you shared it? Have you put it out there and gotten feedback? So the wrong time is if you actually hasn't shared it with the world, not in the sense of a business or anything like that. Because if you set yourself up to fail by the time you start, you're going to go back to what you were doing. And then you're not going to give it a good leg, and you're going to say, see, I told you so, Ruben. It wasn't the right time. This isn't what you're supposed to be. And you'll go back to being miserable. I painted some murals that weren't my work, but like I needed to make money. I'm like, can I make money at this? Can I act like a business? Can I prove a concept that way? Can I do that? Oh, yeah. So some people in many cases forget that part of it. And they're like, you know what? Just jump. Well, there's still, you want to put something at the bottom, right? You're not going to have a safety net, but the tools to build your safety net. You
Mm-hmm.
could jump chasing the parachute down, or jump and build it on the way down. That's what I'm saying. So the wrong time is when you actually don't prove it in some way or some capacity, because you are going to end up back where you were, and maybe worse off.
Yeah, that's really good advice. What was your very first mural like? When you took the leap, were you nervous to put your work out there? Was it really forward facing and in the public eye, or was it kind of on a side street? What was it like, your very first one? And after you completed the task, were you beating yourself up because you messed up a couple times? Like, was the color scheme a little off? Like, let's go down that rabbit hole a little bit.
So the first mural, who will you be? I actually didn't think what anyone was going to think about it.
That's good.
That didn't cross my mind. And in most cases, it does. It's funny. I think harder on an Instagram post than when I put up a mural. Like I'm not
Mm,
worried about like, are they gonna like? Am I gonna get likes on it? Like the way I think about on an Instagram post, because then we're fighting the algorithm. That's a whole nother animal. But that didn't cross my mind. The color schemes were gray, white, black, and red. It was very visible. It was on Lincoln Boulevard and Pier, actually close to Deuce. Starbucks is on
mm,
the other side of it.
hmm.
Lincoln gets 50,000 eyeballs.
Yeah, it does.
So we got eyeballs. And I didn't, none of that came into play when I was doing this. It was like, the way it happened is I was designing the hoodie for our team to wear. And it was a heart with all those words in it. And then my buddy's like, that should be a mural. That's going to be our community project. I'm like, a mural? Like, he's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. So it's like, who will you be on the left? Then I can send you a photo of this. It had my silhouette like this with my arms out. And then there was a very thin, like tiny heart within all the words. And it had like 80 handwritten words in all kinds of fonts: worthy, responsible, love, amor, humble, you name it, leader. And then that was it. I didn't beat myself up. I had zero expectation at the time. Because trust me, all those things happen now. But I'm my own critic to myself. And didn't expect any of the things that came after it. Didn't expect to become a muralist or a street artist. Like none of that. I think we just didn't have expectations. You know, on our unveiling, I was in a suit and tie because that's what we did in finance. We wore suit and ties all day. I could send you
Hmm.
some of those photos too.
What I'm hearing here is that like in the beginning, it was play. It was you and a couple buddies just kind of spitballing. You're like, yeah, I'll go do the thing. And the other thing that's cool is like in the beginning, nobody knows who you are. So even if you put your name down there, you're like, I've got nothing to lose. It's like, when asking somebody out, like if they tell you no or you face rejection, you're actually just right back to where you are right now. You lost nothing except you gained experience. And that's another really important thing that I think people should pack into their headspace in the pursuit of creating. In the beginning, nobody really knows about your project or what's going on, or you have zero subscribers or no likes, or it's just kind of funny that we place this intrinsic pressure on ourselves, but nobody cares. And even Kobe used to say that he's like, we're not that important. And Alex Hermosi talks about it. In 3 generations, we're all going to die. We're not going to care because we're going to be dead. And so at that point, it's like, just do it for
Remember you.
you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like, I don't know, there's a lot that is empowering in some of these little words that these guys are sharing. And I like being able to pay them forward in special conversations like this.
We just can't get over ourselves, right? So I
It's
say
a
there's
really
3 fears.
interesting concept.
3 fears. I'm a few people. A lot of people talk about this, but I agree with it, and I say it as well. And when I say love versus fear, I'm not saying fear is bad. Fear is good. It's safety. It's protection. There's things that trigger us to like, oh, this is like an unsafe street. Like I probably shouldn't walk down it, right? There's a purpose for fear, but to live through fear is a whole nother ballgame. You know, I used to say this. I think I drew something. Use fear as your compass. I think that can be used wrong, um, but it's still a good metric. But the 3 fears that we talk about here are like there's the fear of success. Well, I'm not afraid of succeeding. There's the fear of failure. I'm not afraid of failing because I've failed and I've succeeded. I also think you can't truly fail because every failure, if you learn from it, leads to success. So failures are actually just stepping stones to success. But then there's the fear of what will people think of me? What will people think of this? Will people like it? That's the fear that many of us, subscribe to. And that's where we get into it. Because sometimes I'm like, I make a design, I'm like, ooh, are they going to like it? Is it going to viral? Whatever people like to say and things like that.
Mhm.
That's the tricky part. So once we surrender to like, you know what? That's why I say I'm writing this for me and I'm putting it up for me and because I want to do it. And if I like it, then that's all that matters. So if I don't think about what are other people going to think about it, who cares? But if I'm proud of it, if I'm putting it out there, then I'm going to be okay. And that's kind of how I handle that conversation.
I like it a lot. It's also it's freeing to the artistic mind because there's the ability to just go out and try new things. However, there's also, you know what works up until this point. You know what's gotten the attention, you know what's sold, you have the metrics. And there's also that little tap on your shoulder of, I've got to provide, I've got to run a business, I've got to make sales, I've got to be able to be at peace when I am with my family in the evenings and on the weekends when I don't want to take this stuff home. And sometimes early on, there's not as much proof of concept, or maybe there's, hey, this worked. We had proof of concept. It's not working anymore. How do you navigate that conversation in your mind? And does that cause a little bit of busyness and challenge for you when you're just like, whoa, like I do want to create, but I also need to monetize?
Mm-hmm. So there's a couple ways of handling this question. It's a great question, but at the same time, think of it in current times. One, I say I'm inviting and I'm creating a culture of love. So if I'm actively creating culture that's getting applied, that's, I've got stuff that's like, wow, that's going to be in history books one day. Like someone did a documentary of all the Kobe murals and my murals are in there.
That's rad.
There's that thought. It's like, if you're creating something in the world, you're already, that's for you to keep moving forward, to keep moving forward, to keep moving forward. This isn't even the monetization. The monetization, I don't do it for the money. The money is a byproduct. Happy byproduct. I don't train for the six pack. I walk around with a six pack because it's a happy byproduct of my fitness, how I eat, and my lifestyle. If I worked for the money, it would have been like in my past. That wasn't the conversation I'd like to have. If I trained for a six pack, probably do steroids, a diet, and tan, and it wouldn't be functional, right? Functional fitness that when I'm 75, I want to have a six pack still. I want to play with my grandkids. Like, we can have those goals, but not doing it for that specifically. So I guess that's how I answer that. But at the same time, we do have to be present and privy to the changing times. So what has worked before isn't working anymore. I could post a mural photo, just get thousands of likes. Me with a new shirt in front of the mural, sell hundreds of tees. Now you do a post, you get 12 likes, you get 200 likes, you get 1,000 views, you get 10,000 views. It's like all over the place because the algorithm wants what the algorithm wants. And I just listened to this other crazy podcast about what feeds the algorithm, what triggers it, but we won't go into that for the rest of the conversation. That's another day. But you got to see, what are the trends? What are the things landing? As we get older, we have more generations to talk to, right? Above me, baby boomers, Generation X, millennials, below us, Gen Z, all the way down. Like, who am I talking to in my audiences? So our job is to adapt and be able to story tell into the audiences that are behind us to continue to inspire. So I think that's where we start changing, and that's where we start evolving, and that's where we take responsibility of, like, what does my content have to look like now to reach that younger audience, to remain relevant, to be cool, to be part of the zeitgeist, to be culturally relevant, all those things, right? And I think that's how we start answering that, because that's what I'm working on now. Like, I am studying. I started a clothing line. Someone's like, send me a tech pack. What's a tech pack? Just put this design on a shirt. That's all I need. Like, I had to learn what this looks like. I've done a lot of cut and sew now. It's like, just embroider the hat. And now these hats have like full custom everything, right? This is like the crown that I want. This is performance fabric. This has all the bells. Like, we just get better and better and better and continue to evolve. And And realizing that, you start learning. So I'm looking at how do I really become a creative director to my brand? So now I'm becoming my own creative director to my brand. So what I'm, I guess, trying to say is continue to learn, continue to evolve, continue to realize what worked before isn't going to continue working, and build upon that. And it's the messaging that I'm trying to put out there. So now I'm creating campaigns around messages. If you look at the new era Choose Love hats I did with the NFL, I shot a whole short film. We wrote an original hip hop song. It
Oh,
was
that's cool.
awesome. We did the campaign, like the whole thing. It's kids playing touch football on the streets, speaking to our generation, because who does that now? I don't know if my kids will do that. I don't
Mhm.
see what, like, I would get on my bike and just ride till sundown and come home for dinner. And I don't think I'm going to let my kid do that, even though it's safer, supposedly. I don't feel like it's safer. So, but either way,
No,
this
it
new,
really is cool to hear your inner workings as a creative and as an artist. But the big thing that I'm hearing there is just you're continuing to become. And that's one of my taglines with the podcast is stay on the hunt for who you've not yet become. And the fact that you're continuing to learn, you're getting feedback from people, hey, this is what I need from you. You're like, hey, what's a tech pack? Okay, let me Google that real quick. Let me hop on, let me ask for help, ask people on my team. Okay, I'm going to figure that out. Now we can figure that out and get it over to you. Now we have that. We can multi-purpose it in the future. We can add to it. I like this. I don't like this. This worked well. This didn't work well. It's a constant evolution. It shows too, to answer the monetization component, you're also diversifying your bottom line. You're not just doing murals. You're now making paintings that you can sell to people. You're doing things with apparel, different forms of apparel, simple but also complex. Then you also are a keynote speaker. You're putting your message out there to be seen, heard, and understood on podcasts. You weekly do your own podcast. Like there's lots of different like plates that are kind of spinning in the air consistently over the course of time, but they all funnel back towards that element of storytelling and creativity, which I love.
mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great way to sum up what I was doing. But it's all, it's one, I say it's a lifestyle brand, you know? We're creating this one thing. Art is the main medium and the voice. And I always say that clothing's wearable art. It all started as a painting and then we put it on the clothing. It's not like I'm designing for the clothing only. It's literally everything that's out in the world. But the campaign I have going in now, and I'm like, this is what I'm leaning into for the fourth quarter, and something else that I got coming out is like, you can't download love. The
Mm.
internet's cool, but you can't download love. Period. And it's all about finding love in real moments in life. And I'm coming out with this cooler, and it's super dope. And I have it in a box over here, so I can't unpack it right now. But it's like, okay, here's a product now that's going to allow you to take this lifestyle and you go camping, you go to the beach, you go do whatever you need to do to create your moments of love, the moments that you're going to remember. You can't download it, you can't experience it. You can buy the t-shirt to remind someone, or the cooler, or the water bottle, or whatever. And it's just about creating those moments of love in real life.
Yeah, man. What I love about what you're saying right now is I believe we need more more often than not, I feel like we need to be reminded than we need to be taught. And I think that that's what you're doing with your brands. You're reminding people because kids come out with unconditional love. Dogs show it time and time again that they're full of unconditional love. We as adults have it somewhere in there, but we lose it for whatever reason. And I think that little reminder is just a little tap on the shoulder. It's a hug. It's a smile. It's a wink. It's an acknowledgement. It's a head nod. It's holding the door for somebody. It's doing those minute things that are just like, hey, we care. We got your back. We can't do this alone. And through gratitude, love, connection, acknowledgement, all the things, we're here. And we're doing this thing called life. And hopefully inspiring the next generation because we know they're watching.
Yeah. You know, one thing I say is like you turn on the TV, you open the news, you have a conversation with a neighbor, there's no lack of fear being thrown down our throats. And all I'm really doing is reminding you that there is love in the world and these moments exist. And we can turn off that noise, not ignore it, that's part of life, but we can turn it off, take a moment to breathe and say, you know what, let me respond to this. Let's stop reacting.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me, I'm talking to myself when I say that, and
For sure.
stop being victims and martyrs and entitlement. We all suffer from all these things.
Mm-hmm.
If for whatever reason, good or bad, it doesn't matter, but we can all do better if we lean into love.
Very well said, man. What's next for the Live Through Love movement?
Keep going. Keep going. I mean, I got big old lofty dreams and goals. Continue to collaborate with bigger brands, classic brands. I have this dream. The LA 2028 Olympics are coming. And I designed the uniforms for the athletes years ago. And I would love to see America show up in red, white, and blue like love tracksuits.
Mm.
And imagine like a 20-foot love sculpture coming out as the center of the Olympics and like the Olympic green colors for opening ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
And if America shows up in that, and it doesn't have to be me that makes them, like if it's Ralph Lauren or whoever has the contract, I don't care. I just want the design out there. And if we as this country, and I love this country, I'm a proud American, born and raised here, we're in a transitioning period, are we in a dark place? I don't know. Politics are all over the place. I don't know. We'll just leave it at that. I think if we choose love and lean into love, we can start actually uniting instead of dividing.
Dude, that would be so cool if that design was out there for the Olympics in LA coming up. I'd be so pumped for you.
It'd be so insane. It would be, and for me, it's about that moment and what that can inspire. That's like all I see is that. It's not about anything other than like, wow, imagine how powerful it would be for this country to show up. We're here for the 2028 Olympics in love, and this is this country's motto moving forward.
I love that vision, man. I can't help but have an ear-to-ear smile. To flip the script on you with my final question of the day, man, how do you define living through love?
Living through love is a daily practice. It's moment to moment. Because as we practice more self-awareness and more realization, we're going to realize like we have our bad moments and it's okay. But how fast can we shift from that moment to back to love, back to love? So we got to choose it every single day, 24/7, 365. And it starts by looking in the mirror and choosing love and realizing that you are that love and you are the answer.
Mm-hmm. Love is a verb, like you said, man. Ruben Rojas, ladies and gentlemen. That was an epic conversation. Ruben, where can people find you?
RubenRojas.com, at Ruben Rojas. Just Google my name. Things will pop up.
Cool, man. Where can people find more about the brand?
RubenRojas.com or LiveThroughLove.com. Because I got that domain. It's on there, and there's stuff everywhere.
Nice, man. Well, keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate you carving out some time to paint a podcast mural with me today. And for those of you listening, if you enjoyed my conversation with the visionary behind the Live Through Love movement, Ruben Rojas, please rate, review, subscribe, and share with your friends. And as always, stay on the hunt for who you've not yet become. Until next time.